culinary students. So, this is Miss Danielson here. I am going to be teaching you in this recording while you get to have a sub in the classroom with you. Just quick little things about having a sub, since obviously this will be your first time having one this semester. Expectations would be kind, be respectful, just save any angst you may have for another day. Don't take it out on them because they are being very kind by helping us out and being in the classroom with you today. One of my rules is that if a person were to get their name written down for anything deemed negative, you get to help me scrub stuff in the kitchen. That's kind of your consequence. So it's not a win for you, but it's kind of a win for me. Yes, I'm sad if you get your name written down, but I'm going to be honest with you. I've got some stuff in the kitchens that, oof, I would love to have some help with. So, tread your waters lightly. Just be kind like I know you will, and you're going to have a good day today. So let's first recap yesterday to kind of get our brains warmed up for what's going to be happening today. So, yesterday, if you recall, we looked at some pictures of products that we have in the culinary classroom, and I had you just figure out what it was. Was it flour? Was it sugar? Was it salt? And some of us got maybe one or two right. Some of us maybe got six or seven right. Some of us were maybe in the middle. Some of us maybe got zero right. But we basically realized that, yeah, we can know what these things are, but gosh, when they all look the same and it's just a picture we're looking at, it really made it difficult to identify which ones were which. And then that led us into our discussion of how do we know if a food goes bad? Because we came up with some pretty good lists in each class of things to look for, whether it's something about the look of it, the taste of it, the smell, the texture, something about the food that's definitely not quite right that would give us an indication of it needs to be thrown out. But we realized we're not always going to know because there will be a time when food looks good, it smells good, tastes good, and yet, ooh, it wasn't good, and we could still get sick from it. So we kind of summed it up that when in doubt, just throw it out. That's the best thing you can do. But if all of a sudden, nope, we still ate it and we just risked it, then we know that yeah, we could get a foodborne illness, and we know foodborne illnesses are illnesses caused by consuming a food or drink that contains something harmful. So whether it is bacteria, toxins, spores, pathogens. Oh my goodness, the list could go on. There's so many things that we would know that oof, this could get us sick. And if you're looking at the pictures today, obviously these foods are some extreme examples I have, but when we look at those, we know that those aren't okay. But again, if ever we're not sure, just throw it out because it's not worth risking getting sick. One thing I want us to start thinking about today then is who is at a greater risk of getting sick for a foodborne illness, because we do have certain groups of people that their risk is much, much higher than, say, you or myself. Okay, so take a little bit here, think in your mind, who might these high risk groups of people be? And if you're looking at the slide, there is a hint. There would be four groups of people who are at a greater risk. Who could they be? Well, let's see if you guessed any of these. The four groups of people that we have at a much greater risk of getting a foodborne illness than, say, you or myself would be babies and young kids. So I want you thinking of a baby who is just born. It could also be a baby who hasn't been born yet because they can still get sick when they're in the womb. And then up to, oh, think like kindergarten age, pretty much. So we're looking at babies up to that kindergarten age. They would definitely be a high risk group for getting a foodborne illness. Second group would be elderly. So we're looking at anyone in like the 65-year-old or older age group. They would be at a higher risk of getting a foodborne illness. Anyone who is chronically ill, that would be the third group. So thinking of someone who already is sick with something that's just it's long term, it's kind of always there, or it just never goes away, or it has a chance of coming back even. So there's a few different examples I could give you here. Let's say that we have a person with cancer and they're battling that. That would be seen as chronic illness because it's with you for a while. It doesn't just show up one day and then it's gone the next day. If we had someone with, say, HIV/AIDS, that's in their body, it's there, that could put them at a disadvantage. Even people who have something like diabetes, that could actually put them at a little bit greater risk at times. Just any of these underlying conditions, those would be ones that we would want to be careful of. Another great example, hey, if you have COVID, guess what? You might be chronically ill because some people don't just get it and then get over it super quick. So if we have people who are experiencing COVID over a period of time, then yeah, that puts them in the chronically ill category. And then fourth group would be pregnant women. Now, I want you to think then, why would their risk be greater? What would be something that they all have in common that is putting them at the greater risk of getting a foodborne illness? Well, if you're thinking something with their immune system, you're absolutely right. Okay, so let's break it down. If you're a baby or a young kid, your immune system is brand new. It's not been exposed to things. It doesn't have immunities built up. So, if it's not developed enough yet, well, then yeah, that kind of explains why you're susceptible to getting a foodborne illness more than, say, you or myself. Oh, wait a second. Elderly people, they're on the opposite end of the spectrum. They have an immune system, it is exposed to things. Okay, well, if you really think about it though, when you're elderly and older, your immune system does start to shut down a little bit in the sense of it's just not working quite like it used to. It's had some wear and tear over the years. So you could come in contact with something now that your body would have been able to fight off maybe 5, 10, 15 years ago. But now that you're a little bit older, it's just not able to handle it quite like it once would have. Chronically ill is just kind of common sense because if your body is already trying to fight something else off or it's trying to compensate for something that's currently going on, well then obviously it's already being worked. It's under pressure. It's being taxed from other things. So to introduce something else like a foodborne illness to it, yeah, your immune system can't handle much more. So then it makes sense why they are more susceptible for getting foodborne illnesses than, say, you or myself. And then pregnant women, they're going to be, well, let's put it this way pregnant women. For some people, it doesn't make sense because pregnant women typically aren't babies or kids. They're not elderly and they're not necessarily chronically ill. So we have to start to wonder what in the world is going on with their immune system that would put them at the greater risk. Well, if you think about it, their immune system is taking care of them, but it's also supporting a baby at the same time. So it truly is on double duty, which then their risk for foodborne illness would go up. So everything in common has something going on with their immune system. So pack that little nugget of information in your brain for testing purposes. Immune system, immune system, immune system. Something is going on with it, and that's why their body it's just at a greater risk for getting those foodborne illnesses. Now, with that said, if you or I are not in one of these categories, do you suppose that means that we never, ever, ever have to worry about getting a foodborne illness? I am hoping you are shaking your heads no, and I'm hoping some of you have actually said no, because you're absolutely right. Just because we're not in one of those high risk groups, that doesn't ever mean that we're not going to get a foodborne illness, because guess what? We totally could. And guess what? Some of you told me yesterday that you have had a foodborne illness. And guess what? Some of you have probably had one before and you never even knew it because you passed it off for symptoms of just like a regular cold or flu or something else and didn't even really consider that maybe it could have been something food related. So, mind blown on that one. All right. So, the rest of our time today, I want us to have a chance to take a closer look at specific foodborne illnesses. And starting this off as to why this is kind of important here is some data from the FDA, who is the Food and Drug Administration, and then the CDC, which is the Center for Disease and Control. Basically, what they have found is that there are 48 million cases of foodborne illnesses each year. That's documented. This obviously does not include the cases that would be kind of put off to the side because people assume, oh, I just had a 24-hour flu bug. Oh, I was just sick with something else. So this number essentially could be much higher than what it is. Now, to break down the 48 million, 1 in 6 Americans become sick from contaminated food. So if you look around the classroom, find 6 of you, 1 of you will get sick from a foodborne illness. That starts to add up. And then when you break down that 48 million, 128,000 hospitalizations will come from that. And then unfortunately, we have approximately 3,000 deaths that would occur each year because someone was exposed to something harmful in the food or drink that they were consuming. And that's just a really big bummer. So, looking at the CDC and FDA websites, they talk about the top 5 germs that cause illnesses from foods eaten in the United States. And those 5 would be norovirus, salmonella, Clostridium perfringens, Campylobacter, and then what we're going to call staph for short, because let's be real, some of these can be a mouthful to try to say. So just do the best that you can with pronunciations, okay? Now, the other thing that they find is that some other germs don't cause as many illnesses, but when they do, the illnesses are more likely to lead to hospitalization. So those germs would be Clostridium botulinum, which we're going to call botulism for short, Listeria, E. coli, and then Vibrio or Vibrio, potato, say it how you want. But these are ones I want you to think, like looking at this slide and looking at that past slide, think to yourself, are there any on these slides that stick out to you and you think to yourself, hey, I've heard that before. Maybe you didn't necessarily know what it was, but you're like, hey, I've heard of this before. Like maybe it was in the news or in a health class or somewhere you've come across some of these bacteria, these germs, these organisms, pathogens, whatever else they might be. So just kind of think, have you heard of them before? Because I'm going to guarantee that some of you have, okay? So what we're going to do today is we're going to focus in on a short list of 7 that our standards and benchmarks would like us to cover for Culinary 1. So we're going to look at E. coli, Salmonella, Listeria, norovirus, shigellosis. Yes, I am saying that funny because so many of you mispronounce it. So I'm hoping with my quirkiness, we're going to get it right. So say it with me, shigellosis, because you're digging into it when you say it, shigellosis. Okay, my friends? And then we have staph and we have botulism. So here's what's going to happen. We're going to start breaking off and you are going to get assigned one of these foodborne illnesses. Okay, so let's say you get E. coli. All right, you will be responsible for looking up either the signs and symptoms, the causes, or the preventions. It's just going to be one of those areas. Okay, now for whichever area you get, you are going to find 3 things for that area. So for example, if I'm doing E. coli and my area that I'm covering is signs and symptoms, well, then my job is to find a minimum of 3 signs and symptoms that I can present out on to the rest of the class. Okay, let's say that I'm doing E. coli and my job is to find the causes of E. coli. Okay, well then I need to find a minimum of 3 things that would cause E. coli. All right, you're kind of hopefully catching on here. So let's say if I have E. coli, but my area is preventions, well, then I need to find 3 minimum ways to prevent E. coli. Okay. Now, when you're looking at your information, and you'll be given these little news article packets that you can pull information from. So don't think that you have to like come up with this on your own and do these crazy mass searches or anything, because you don't. The packet will have all your information that you need. When you're looking through it, though, I want you to really consider picking out anything that sticks out to you, anything that is unique, that you think the other foodborne illnesses would not have in common. Because when you pick out those unique things, that is going to make testing way easier over this stuff, because you're going to start to do process of elimination. Okay, so what I want to show you is an example of how this would work. All right, so in Canvas, there is a link for our class period that you'll click on that's going to have a set of Google Slides. And on the Google Slides, down in the bottom corner, so you can see here, you are going to find your name on one of those slides. At the top of the slide, it's going to say the foodborne illness and then the area that you need to be finding information for. Okay, so everything else at this point would be blank. All right, so if I'm George, well, then I know I am covering norovirus, and I am specifically finding the causes of norovirus. And again, my job is to find 3 minimum causes as to why people are getting norovirus. Okay? Now, if you're looking at the slide, I hope you're starting to realize, oh, you're going to find pictures. Because here's the problem when people do research things and present it out in classes. And don't get me wrong, I've been guilty of doing this before too when I was your age. One of the problems is you find a lot of great information, but then you have all of these bullet points and it's way teeny tiny, hard to read. And bullet points, to be honest, it's not that memorable. Information starts to get lost in the shuffle, and it's just hard to pack that away in your brain. But if I have pictures, ooh, for a lot of us, that sticks in our heads. Because pictures, that says a lot. Like that just sticks. So looking at the slide here, if I'm George, 3 causes that I found for norovirus is that I have a picture of a cruise ship, because I know that cruise ships are notorious for having norovirus on them. We hear of cases every single year, minus 2020, because a lot of cruise ships weren't able to go out. So the data is going to be a little bit skewed this year because of COVID. But in the past, though, year after year after year, we would see cruise ships having to go into harbors and quarantine people because they had norovirus. And yeah, imagine that. You get put in quarantine on your vacation because you got norovirus. That's a bummer. Other causes would be not washing their hands properly, especially after using the bathroom, which is gross. And then another thing would be when we have people in a kitchen and they're sick and they're cooking our food. Or put these together and they went to the bathroom, didn't wash their hands, and now their hands are touching our food, and then that's what we're eating. Disgusting. So those would be some causes that we would see for norovirus. Now, let's say, oh, here's Paul. He's got norovirus too, but he's looking specifically at symptoms. So what is a person going to experience when they have norovirus? Okay, well, they're going to have stomach cramping, and we're talking like, whoa, stomach cramping. It's not just mild stuff. It can get pretty severe. They're also going to have diarrhea, but look at this lovely emoji showing us this, so it's not too graphic. Oh, that's so nice. Okay, and then we definitely know there's going to be a lot of vomiting, and I tried to find as best of vomiting picture, because here's the thing with norovirus. It's coming out this end. It's coming out this end. You have no control over it. Like, it is coming out at the same time. This end, this end. It is just like an explosion coming out of your body. You think I'm joking? I am not. Okay? Now, let's say we got Ringo here. Ringo's in charge of norovirus, but specifically the preventions. So preventions, washing your hands after going to the bathroom, before you're cooking with food, Ooh, making sure you're not cooking when you're sick, and just in general, staying away from people when you're sick, okay? And then another thing is when you have your cooking space, if you can see it here because the picture is a little bit tiny, these are some sanitizing and disinfecting wipes and then sanitizer stuff. Making sure that you are sanitizing and cleaning your counters properly to get rid of any of that bacteria that could potentially spread the norovirus, okay? So, this would be an example of one presentation of a foodborne illness. We know the preventions, we know the symptoms, we know the causes. Okay, now here's the thing, I'm going to pick on preventions for a second. Some of you are going to realize, oh, you just don't have as much unique stuff that stands out. And if that's the case, that's fine. Just go ahead and put what you're finding. So I'm going to pick on hand washing. Oh my gosh, every single person for preventions of a foodborne illness could put down wash your hands properly. Okay. And for some of you, I mean, it is just kind of that basic common sense stuff. Okay. But that doesn't mean don't try to look, see if there is something. Okay. So don't cop out on me here. Now, if I'm looking at some of these other ones though, ooh, norovirus, cruise ship, maybe this right here is enough to stand out. So when I take my test, if I see anything about a cruise ship, I know it's going to be norovirus. Because here's the thing, I can tell you right now, none of the other foodborne illnesses talk about a cruise ship. Okay, so whatever you can do, whether it's causes, symptoms, or preventions, see if there's something you can find amongst the three of you who have that same foodborne illness. See if there's something you can find that's going to be really unique and stands out. Okay, so kind of talk with each other from your spots. Okay, so going back again, you're going to be assigned a foodborne illness. You are going to have one of those three areas, whether it's signs or symptoms, causes, preventions, okay? And you got to find 3 minimum for each. Only pictures, no words, remember? Because pictures are going to stand out more in our heads than what these long lists of words ever will, okay? And then again, think about something unique. Okay, now just a heads up, a couple of my class periods, especially my bigger class periods, if you see in the slides that you and another person have the same foodborne illness and you're also looking at the same area, I do have a reason for that. No, it's not a typo. We just might have some people gone tomorrow for whatever reason. So I'm making sure I've got you doubled up with that person. So some way, shape, or form, we're getting information onto that slide. Okay, so with that, you can pick up a packet of information from the Purple Kitchen, or your sub can help you get those, okay? These are class copies, so make sure when you're done with them, you do put them back, please, and get them into their proper piles. Don't just dump them back in the kitchen. But then, yeah, go ahead and open up your Google Slides for our class. Find the slide that's assigned to you and start finding some pictures. I'm excited to see what you come up with. And if you have any questions, ask your sub. Feel free to email me using the contact me button. And we're going to look at these slides on Monday. So good luck and have a good weekend.